My cheating wife blamed me for her affair. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be that guy posting his mess of a life online for internet strangers to dissect. But here we are. Throw our because my wife knows my main, and honestly, I don't need her or her friends finding this. My head is spinning, my heart feels like it's been through a blender, and I genuinely don't know what to do next. So, I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I've been married to my wife, Claire, 33F, for almost 8 years. If you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have told you we were solid. Not perfect, God, no. But we were relationship goals to everyone who knew us. The couple at the barbecue everyone said would last forever. We met in college, did the whole long-distance thing while she chased grad school, and I started my career and somehow made it work. We bought our first little fixer-upper together, which we mostly just fixed up by arguing about paint colors and IKEA instructions. Adopted a scruffy rescue dog, and even survived both sets of in-laws visiting for the holidays. Our dynamic always worked because we were different. Claire's the classic extrovert, the kind of person who makes best friends in a checkout line, gets invited to 3 parties in one night, and never says no to an adventure. I'm more the homebody, happiest with a book or a video game and a quiet night in. For years, it felt like we balanced each other out. She pushed me to be more social. I helped her slow down. It worked, until, maybe, it didn't. Now that I look back, there were signs I ignored. Claire hated talking about problems. If something upset her, she'd rather go out with friends or pick up a new hobby than actually work through it. Sometimes I felt like I was playing second fiddle to her phone, her group chats, her constant stream of plans. I figured it was just her way, that marriage was supposed to be a little hard sometimes. Everyone says marriage is work, right? I loved her. I still do, even now. But things started to shift in ways I couldn't quite put my finger on. I wish I'd listened to that little voice in the back of my mind. Maybe I wouldn't be here, telling strangers how my world fell apart. The night everything fell apart started off so normal, I almost wish it had been dramatic. Claire texted that she was working late, again. I tried to keep busy, ordered takeout, played with Milo, scrolled endlessly. Around midnight, I was about to go to bed when her iPad, yeah, the one she never uses, buzzed on the couch. She must have forgotten to silence it. I know, you're not supposed to snoop, but my heart was already halfway broken, and curiosity, or maybe desperation, took over. The iPad was logged into her messages. I saw a name I didn't recognize, Jared W., with a long thread of texts. My stomach dropped. There were memes and inside jokes, but as I scrolled up, I saw messages from earlier that day. Can't stop thinking about last night. Wish you were here in bed with me. Now you make me feel alive in a way I haven't in years. Then, a photo. Nothing too explicit, but not something you send a coworker. I stared at the screen so long I felt sick. I don't know how long I sat there. My hands were shaking, my chest was tight. Part of me wanted to smash the iPad. Part of me wanted to believe it wasn't real. When Claire finally came home, she looked surprised to see me awake. I guess I was pale as a ghost, because her smile faded fast. I just held up the iPad. She froze. Didn't say a word for a solid minute. I asked how long. My voice didn't sound like mine. Claire tried to say it wasn't what it looked like, but I could see it in her face. She knew she was caught. She finally admitted it had been going on for a couple of months. She said she didn't mean to hurt me, but things just happened. I sat there, numb, listening to her words blur together. The woman I'd built my life with was sitting across from me, and I realized I didn't know her at all. If you've ever been cheated on, you probably know that weird, out-of-body sensation you get. The moment when the floor drops out, and you're just floating, listening to someone talk, but none of it feels real. That was me, stuck on the couch while Claire rambled through her excuses. But the worst was yet to come. At first, she cried. Big, ugly tears. She kept saying she was so sorry, that it just happened, that she never wanted to hurt me. I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd get some honesty. Instead, the conversation twisted in a way I'll never forget. She started telling me how lonely she'd been, how emotionally unavailable I was, how I didn't appreciate her and never made her feel special. Suddenly, she was angry at me. I wouldn't have looked for anyone else if you'd paid more attention to me, she snapped, face red and voice shaking. I sat there, stunned. I've been begging you for affection, but you're always in your own world. Jared listens to me. He sees me. It was like someone flipped a switch, her guilt turning into accusation. I tried to defend myself. I said I'd always tried to be there, that I loved her, that I asked her to talk about things when she was upset. But she wasn't having it. Every hurt in our marriage, every rough patch, every night I worked late or wanted a quiet night in was suddenly proof that I drove her away. She kept listing all the ways I failed her. You stopped making an effort. You stopped caring about my needs. She even said I'd basically given up on us, as if my quieter nature was some personal attack. It was surreal. I just found out my wife was cheating, and somehow I was the villain. Some part of me almost believed her. I started replaying every argument, every time she seemed distant, wondering if maybe I really was to blame. That was the hardest part, being betrayed and then gaslit into thinking I somehow deserved it. Looking back, the signs were all there. They always are, right? At first, it was subtle stuff. Claire started working late more often. She claimed her boss was ramping up for a big launch, and everyone had to show commitment. I wanted to be supportive. I mean, she's ambitious, and I've always admired that. But it was weird how she'd come home exhausted, yet still glued to her phone, grinning at texts she wouldn't let me see. There was a stretch where she started taking her phone everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Bathroom, shower, out for a walk. If I so much as glanced at the screen, she'd get weirdly defensive, like I was snooping. Our dog, Milo, became my sounding board. He never judged, just flopped his head in my lap when I'd sit alone at night, Claire out networking or grabbing drinks with the girls. She stopped inviting me to her friends' get-togethers, claiming it's just a girl's thing, or you wouldn't have fun, babe. It stung more than I let on. Conversations between us turned surface level. We still did the small stuff, takeout, Netflix, half-hearted banter about work, but something was off. She'd pull away when I tried to hug her. Sex became rare, then basically non-existent, always with an excuse. Too tired, too stressed, too busy. Once, I suggested we take a weekend trip to reconnect, just the two of us, and she said she couldn't possibly get away with all the work stuff. I bought it, mostly because I wanted to. Denial is comfortable, until it isn't. Around this time, I noticed receipts in the laundry, bars and restaurants we'd never visited, even though she said she was working late. I tried to ask about them, but she'd wave me off, call me paranoid, or laugh it off like I was being silly. But the laughter didn't reach her eyes anymore. I started to feel invisible in my own marriage, and deep down, I think I already knew. That night felt endless. After Claire dropped her accusations, she stormed off to the spare room and slammed the door. I just sat in the living room, numb, Milo curled up by my side like he knew something was wrong. My mind replayed every conversation, every date night we canceled, every hug she shrugged off. Was it all my fault? Was I really so impossible to love that my own wife had to go searching for someone else? I barely slept. My thoughts ran in circles. One minute I was furious, the next I was doubting myself. Anger would well up. How dare she betray me, then have the audacity to blame me for her own choices? But then guilt would sneak in. Maybe I really hadn't been present enough. Maybe if I'd planned more trips, or been more fun, or said, I love you more, things would be different. In the days that followed, everything felt surreal. We tiptoed around each other in the house. I went through the motions at work, pretending everything was fine, but inside, I was unraveling. The house felt colder, emptier. Claire barely spoke, and when she did, it was clipped, like she was the one nursing a wound. My friends noticed something was off. One of my closest buddies, Mark, texted me to grab a drink. I almost said no, but ended up spilling everything to him in the back corner of a dive bar. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Dude, none of this is on you. Cheating is a choice. Don't let her mess with your head. Still, Mark's words rattled around in my brain, battling Claire's accusations. I wanted to believe him, but it's hard to trust yourself when someone you love so much twists the knife and then blames you for bleeding. Some nights I just sat in the dark, Milo at my feet, wondering if I'd ever feel whole again, or if this mess would follow me forever. A week after that night, I hit my breaking point. Living in limbo was driving me insane. The house felt toxic, like the air was heavy with everything we weren't saying. I was done walking on eggshells, so one Saturday morning, I told Claire we needed to talk. No more dodging. No more blame games. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Milo hovered under my chair, sensing the tension. I tried to keep my voice steady, but my hands shook. I deserve the truth, Claire. I want to know everything. No more half answers. No more making this about my supposed failures. She rolled her eyes at first, like she was annoyed I was dragging this out. Then, suddenly, the tears started again. She said she didn't want to hurt me, that she fell for Jared by accident, that she felt trapped by our routines and loneliness. I asked if she still loved me, and she looked away. That silence was all the answer I needed. I pressed her on the timeline. She admitted it started as just friendship, but the text told a different story. I asked if it was just physical or emotional. Both, she whispered. She said she tried to fight it, but felt alive, with him in a way she hadn't in years. Every word landed like a punch to the gut. Then came the excuses again. I only did this because you shut me out. You're so emotionally distant. Jared listened. You never do. I asked her if she ever even tried to talk to me about feeling this way, or if cheating was just easier. She shrugged. What was the point? You never change. It was like arguing with a wall. She twisted everything I said into proof she was justified. For a moment, I almost wondered if she really believed it. If I'd been more loving, less distracted, would she still have done this? Or was she always looking for an out? At the end, I just felt empty. There was no apology, just blame and tired resignation. For the first time, I realized I couldn't fix this, no matter how much I wanted to. Word travels fast in a small circle, even when you try to keep it quiet. At first, I told only Mark and my sister, Jess. Mark, as always, was blunt. You're not crazy, man. Cheating's on her. Jess, on the other hand, was more emotional. She came over with wine and snacks, hugged me like I'd just lost a limb, and said, whatever you need, I'm here. Claire, meanwhile, started quietly building her own narrative. I found out from a mutual friend that she'd told people we were having problems for a long time, and that I'd checked out of the marriage. Some of her friends stopped texting me back. A couple sent polite, vague messages, all thinking of you. Hope you're well. I could tell they'd chosen a side. It stung, more than I'd like to admit. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing the friend group we'd built together. My parents were shocked when I finally told them. My dad went quiet, then hugged me and said, Son, you don't deserve this. My mom was furious. At first at Claire, but then a bit at me, wanting to know what happened and if I'd seen this coming. It hurt, but I could tell she just didn't know how to process it. She tried to be supportive in her own awkward, let's bake cookies kind of way. Claire's family was complicated. Her mom called to say she was sorry it didn't work out, but didn't ask for details. I heard from another relative that Claire was already introducing Jared as a close friend at family dinners. That stung more than I expected. I learned a lot about people in those weeks. Some friends faded away, uncomfortable with the drama. A few, like Mark and Jess, checked in daily, dragged me out of the house, refused to let me wallow. It's funny how heartbreak sharpens everything. Who's there? Who's not? Who believes you? Who believes the easy story? Still, even with support, I felt alone. Every memory, birthdays, holidays, even inside jokes, felt tainted now. It was like living in a house full of ghosts, and I still didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do next. The days blurred together, a strange mix of heartbreak, rage, and dead-eyed autopilot. I'd wake up, go to work, come home, and find Claire already gone or locked in the spare room, texting someone, probably Jared. Even Milo seemed depressed, watching us both with confused, sad eyes. My friends kept asking if I'd made up my mind. Are you kicking her out? Filing for divorce? Trying therapy? The truth was, I didn't know. There was a stubborn, desperate part of me that wanted to fix things, to believe that, after 8 years, we could somehow claw our way back. But each time I imagined forgiving her, I saw the look in her eyes when she talked about Jared. That look of, I don't know, relief. Like she'd finally escaped something. And I realized I was the something. I tried to picture us going to counseling. But what would we even say? Every conversation ended in blame. I'd ask her to come clean. She'd list my failures. I'd ask her if she wanted to stay married. She'd shrug and say, I don't know. At some point, you get tired of being someone's villain in their story. Some nights, I replayed everything. Our wedding, our first apartment, the little promises we made. Was there a version of this where I fought harder? Could I have saved us if I'd just been more? Or had she already left me, emotionally, months before I ever found out? One night, I wrote 2 lists, one for staying, one for leaving. The stay list was full of memories, comfort, fear of being alone. The leave list was painful, but honest. Trust was broken, love felt dead, and every day together was another slow bleed. Eventually, I knew. I couldn't keep living like this, half gone, blamed for things I didn't do, waiting for someone who'd already moved on. I deserved more, even if it meant starting over. I decided to end the marriage. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of relief, maybe even hope. Making the decision was one thing. Acting on it was another. The next morning, I told Claire we needed to talk, really talk. She came into the living room, arms folded, already defensive. I told her calmly but firmly, I can't do this anymore. I'm done being blamed for your choices. I want a divorce. For a split second, her face flashed surprise, maybe even regret. But then she just nodded, almost relieved. I think that's for the best, she said, as if we were discussing weekend plans and not tearing down 8 years of our lives. The following weeks were a blur of logistics, splitting bank accounts, moving Claire's things out, calling a lawyer, crying in the car at random red lights. She stayed with a friend, probably Jared, though she never said it out loud. I found myself wandering our house, suddenly aware of how many things we'd built together. Now just reminders of what was gone. Word spread fast. Some friends reached out, some disappeared. My mom showed up with a casserole, said, "You'll get through this," then wiped her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. Mark and Jess doubled down, dragging me to trivia nights and forcing me to eat real food. The hardest part was letting go of the anger. There were days I hated Claire, hated myself for not seeing it sooner, hated how unfair everything felt. But slowly, the anger faded into something quieter. Acceptance, maybe. I started running again, rediscovering old hobbies, making plans that didn't have to be approved by someone else. Claire and I kept things civil, for the most part. She apologized once, over text, but it was vague. Sorry for how things turned out. I hope you find happiness. It wasn't closure, but maybe that's all I'd ever get. I blocked her on social media and deleted old photos, not out of spite, but to give myself space to heal. Life didn't snap back to normal. It just kept going. Day by day, the pain dulled, and I started to believe I could build something new out of the wreckage. It's been a few months since everything blew up. If you'd told me at the start of all this that I'd end up divorced, sleeping on one side of a too-big bed, relearning how to be alone, I would have laughed in your face, or maybe cried. But here I am. And weirdly, I'm okay. Not great. Not yet. But okay. I've learned a lot about myself, about love, about what you can survive. The biggest shock was realizing how much of my life I'd built around Claire and how empty things felt without her. For a while, every morning hurt, like my chest was full of broken glass. But gradually, the ache dulled. I found comfort in little routines, walking Milo, fixing up the house, reconnecting with friends I'd let drift away. I started therapy, because even though I wanted to believe I could man up and move on, it turns out, heartbreak doesn't work that way. I thought a lot about blame, about how easy it would have been to let Claire's narrative stick, to spend my days convinced I was unlovable, that I drove her away. But that's not the truth. Cheating is a choice. Her decision to betray me is on her, not on my introversion or my quiet nights in. I wish I'd realized sooner that I was enough all along. For anyone reading this, stuck in the same hell, let me say this. You are not to blame for someone else's betrayal. You can be imperfect, tired, even lost, and still deserve love and respect. If someone makes you feel otherwise, that's their problem, not yours. I'm moving forward. Slowly, sometimes shakily, but forward. And if there's one thing I'd tell my old self, or anyone feeling broken after a betrayal, it's that there is life on the other side. It isn't easy, and it isn't quick, but it does get better. Thanks, Reddit, for listening to a stranger's pain. If you made it this far, I hope you find the strength to choose yourself, too.